All right, so here we go again. So there's going to be statements, three or four on each of the next slides, and you just have to just write down so you know yourself whether it's you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Okay. All right. So number 1, my genuine concern for others makes me deeply involved with them, with their hopes, dreams, and needs. So a 1 if it's not at all true, up to a 5 if it's very true. And by the way, there's no right or wrong answers, good or bad answers, just is what it is.
Oh, did you want us to tell you what our score is?
Just write it down on a piece of paper.
Oh, okay.
And then, oh, yeah, just write it down on a piece of paper. And then at the end, I'm going to have you tally it. And then we have a little, what is that called?
A poll.
A poll. Thank you. Wow. Words are leaving me right now. Okay. A poll. Okay. 2, it feels natural to be friendly. I strike up conversations easily and on first name basis with everyone. I know you can read these yourself, but you score 1 to 5. And the third one, people respond warmly to me when I give them attention and encouragement, 1 to 5. Anybody need more time?
Hang on.
Okay.
Okay. All righty.
Okay, next. Can't see a stray dog without wanting to bring it home. Feel good about the fact that I'm a thoughtful, generous person. While it's hard for me to take credit for things I've done for people, it bothers me when they don't seem to care. And it's true that I often do more for others than I should. I give away too much and don't think of myself enough. Let me know when you're ready to move on. And if somebody can hit mute,
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm good, sir.
Okay. I often find myself trying to win over people, especially if they initially seem indifferent. I have special joy in entertaining and hosting my friends and extended family. And 10, I can be warm and supportive, but there is steel in me. By the way, I'm making an assumption that this appeal now, you might have had other reasons to come, but I'm making assumptions that people are going, yeah, I think I'm a people pleaser. That's why I need to find out what to do. And that's what drew you to coming. Is that right or not?
That's true for me.
Yeah, okay. All right. And I'm able to express feelings for people more openly than most, making special effort to know what's going on with people I care about. And I see myself as a healer of broken hearts. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, last slide. My health and finances have frequently suffered because of putting other people's needs and interests before my own. And I love to knock myself out to make people feel welcomed and appreciated. So I want to just stop here and say that it's whether you're an over people pleaser that's important. Being a people pleaser is in and of itself is not a bad thing. In fact, a lot of people think this is a loving way to be. So of course I want to be this. Our greatest strengths can become our greatest weaknesses if they're overused. So that's what we're trying to find out. Okay. All right, Kate, can you put up the little poll? Okay. So if folks would just answer where they are in that poll, please.
I have 58 points. Uh-oh, please select your choice. Okay. Right here. Submit.
Okay. All right. Kate, are you participating in the poll? I'm just wondering because if I need to wait or not. It's a okay. All right. So we can see what does this all mean. So I'm not surprised that that's where you guys ended up, because otherwise I don't think you would have come to the program.
What was our total? How did we do? Everybody was.
Can you see?
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Trudy, there was one on there that used to be a 5 for me, but now that I'm older, it has become a 1. The one about entertaining people and knocking yourself out to entertain family and friends. I used to be a big old 5.
Right.
So I am now a 1.
Just because you don't have the energy to do it anymore, right?
I do not. Too many issues with mobility, and I just flat have pretty much stopped it.
Yeah. But the fact that you really like to do that. So I understand times change, but okay. So, okay, let's see. Oh, wait a sec. All right, why is it doing this now, Kate? There we go. Okay, hold on. It just wasn't moving forward. Okay, there we go. So erroneous beliefs from childhood that often result in over people pleasing. So this doesn't mean that you necessarily had horrible parents, but sometimes these are what we erroneously believe. And what a belief is, by the way, are just thoughts that are similar, that have congregated together, that kind of attract the same kinds of thoughts over and over and over again. And you got to just remember that just because you believe something doesn't mean it's true, even if you believed it all your life. There's still people who don't believe that the Holocaust happened or that a man landed on the moon. And, in Christopher Columbus's time, they believed the world was flat. This doesn't mean that all those things were true, right? But somehow we get beliefs that we believe for us, they are true. So just kind of think about this within your own head. Love will not automatically be given. You must give in order to get. In order to be liked, wanted, and loved, what has to happen? Whoops, didn't mean to do that. You must put others' needs above your own. So just kind of mull that over, see if that sounds like a variation of something that you might believe in it. And when those things happen, those beliefs, see, beliefs, like thoughts attract the same kinds of thoughts. Beliefs attract the same kind of beliefs. That's what happens because we think about them over and over and over again. And it's like a magnet, whatever we believe and send out the vibrations of, we attract. So if you think like the beliefs on the left are true, then you're automatically going to figure out, I can't express or my own needs, hurts, and self-doubt, so I have to repress them, not let anybody know about them. And I can't acknowledge that I have my own needs, similar or pain. And if it's taken too far, this is one of the most concerning results, is that you can end up being in toxic relationships because you're automatically drawn to the needs and pain that you see in others. It's not a conscious decision, but that's often happens. That's often why people who are kind and considerate and people-pleasing often end up with narcissists. So it's just kind of an attract, if you think about it, somebody who's controlling and wants their own way all the time, they're going to find somebody who's willing to give in to them. So, okay. Any of these things ring a bell with anybody? All right. Okay. So what is the root of over people pleasing? Well, when you have the compulsion to be or do something extraordinary to win love and acceptance from others, and you seek to validate your own self-worth by sacrificing yourself, it stems from a feeling of worthlessness and having no value in themselves. But where does that come from? Well, it comes from fear. This is what's at the root of over people pleasing. And what kinds of things do people pleasers fear? Well, loss, not being liked, loneliness, never being loved again, failure, being unlovable. They're even afraid to be afraid, being hurt, and being rejected. So you might not even realize that you think, oh, I want to do this because, you know, this will make the other person happy, and you squelch your own thoughts and feelings and beliefs down, and you don't express your own needs, but it comes from a basis of this fear of just being found out that you're unlovable, or found out that people will abandon or reject you if you don't. And it's not, I'm not saying it's conscious, but this is often the root of over people pleasing, until it becomes so intense that you have to do something about it. So it comes up with, you know, the sense, like I said, of unworthiness. Shame means that shame is different than guilt. Shame is that you think there's something intrinsically wrong with yourself. And that can result in an inability to stand up for yourself. And then that also can result in blaming yourself. What is that beeping?
It's my phone. I apologize.
Oh, it's okay. I just was wondering. All right. So and I imagine this is why you guys are here. You're realizing some detrimental effects of over people pleasing, because what it really does is it stifles your sense of well-being and achieving what's best for yourself. It can also damage your perspective of yourself, which causes you to give up your own sense of self and desires. And as I was alluding to the a slide or so ago, it causes anger and resentment. And without realizing it, you work really hard to repress it, because if you showed anger and resentment, you'd be a really bad person. And then that causes a lot of anxiety, because if we're not really being true in our relationships, and we always have to feel like we're walking on eggshells, that's a lot of anxiety. You're always looking for the next shoe to drop. So now we're going to get to why you came. I'm going to give you some tips for how you can alleviate this. So first of all, it's to recognize the lies of erroneous beliefs and gain the courage to overcome the fear, change those beliefs, practice some self-care, become assertive, and validate and love yourself. So let's think about how do we recognize the lies of erroneous beliefs. I'm going to give you another set of questions. And again, just to yourself, there's not going to be a poll afterwards. Just ask yourself after each of these following questions, is it true? So the first one, everyone must love me. Now, what's really underneath that is an absolute necessity that I have love and approval from peers, family, friends, because I would be wrong or bad if they don't love or approve of me. So you could think of, like, even at work, if you gave a presentation or you're getting an evaluation, your supervisor might have said 9 things that you've done great, but you're upset about the 10th one that she said was an opportunity to learn. You know, I must get along with everyone because I couldn't stand it if I hurt someone. But that actually comes from feeling that self-sacrifice is necessary because my needs and wants are not as important as keeping the peace. So again, just write down the number and whether or not you think it's true. and the belief that good relationships are based on mutual sacrifice and focus on giving. And that comes from the deeper belief that it's better to give than to receive. So I have to deny myself. So again, if you're in situations where you feel like I can't express my real self or my needs, that comes from needing to please others so that you won't be abandoned or rejected. There's other reasons too, but these are the main ones. It is not safe to be me. It's not safe to speak out, because if I do so, I'll be abandoned or rejected. Kind of seeing a theme here. But this is what keeps us stuck and over people pleasing. I have to please others no matter what the cost, so that I won't be abandoned or rejected. I'm sorry, I did that fast. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. It's best not to rock the boat, because it would be just horrible if someone were angry with me. And if you look back on the previous ones, what would happen if somebody were angry with me? I would be rejected. I can't handle conflict. I am wrong or bad. So it's not just like, it's not okay to disagree because I'm wrong or bad, and then they'll abandon me. It would be horrible if I argued. Again, if I disagree, I'll be rejected. Did that fast again, sorry. Thought there was one more coming up on this page. Okay. All right. It's awful, maybe even morally wrong, to be selfish and to put my needs before others. I would then be a bad person. Your problem is my problem. And if you didn't believe it, then I would be a bad person. I'm unworthy unless I am of help to others. So again, just put a true by any of the ones that you believe. I don't deserve to get my own way because I am not worthy. You guys, can you see a pattern here? I must obey or suffer. Bad things will happen if I don't. Others are more important than I am. Again, because I'm not worthy. And anger scares me. So there's overlaps to these questions, but it's important. Which ones resonate with you? Do you go, yeah, I've kind of thought that way. Now, what I'd like you to do, and I can go back to show you the questions again, but what I'd like you to do for every question you said was true, ask the following. This is, by the way, from Byron Katie's book and the work she does called The Work. So any belief that you said was true, can you absolutely know that it's true? So just choose one of those beliefs for now. Can you recall it, or do you want me to go back to show you what they were? Anybody?
I had so many truths. I don't know which one to go back to.
All right. Let me, here, I'll go.
That's me. I'm a big old 5 on most of them, actually.
So I'm just letting you look at them again. That's one of the problems with having animations. It's hard to go back. Okay.
Number 12, maybe.
Okay.
Okay. If I can know.
There's not anyone right or wrong. Just giving you a chance to review them.
Number 7. Yeah.
You want me to show them again?
I definitely can't. I don't like conflict because I grew up being a peacemaker,
Mhm.
and I hate conflict or confrontation.
Yeah. That's generally what's behind people pleasing, actually. It's a fear of, that you're afraid to be a confrontation, but it also comes from a sense that it would be horrible to rock the boat in any way.
And number 4, I can't uh-oh.
Okay, I'll put it back on. Hold on. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, you want the, oops. There.
Well, number 4, I can't express my real self or my needs.
Mhm.
So when I do go out and I'm among people, I feel like a fraud most of the time, because they'll be wanting me to agree with something or other, and I'm like, oh, okay. And like, I'm okay with it, but I'm really not.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, oops, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, and here's the first one again. So if you need to write any of those down. All right, now we're gonna, let me do it this way, it'll be faster. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to the slideshow. Okay. So for every question you said was true, I then want you to do this. Ask the following. And you absolutely know for sure that it's true. Remember, just because you believed it's true doesn't make it true. So can you absolutely know that it's true? Think about, how do you react when you believe that thought? And who would you be without that thought? So those are some things to contemplate in terms of, because these thoughts and beliefs have lies ingrained in them that when they were first programmed into your brain, you didn't know. Perhaps it was, by well-meaning or maybe not so well-meaning parents, but when we're young, our brains are easily programmable because we are dependent on our caregivers for survival. I mean, human beings are dependent for a long time. Think about all the other creatures in the world, they get kicked out of the nest quite quickly, and we take 18 years or longer. So it's, you can come to believe that something's true. That doesn't necessarily mean it is. So this is one of the ways you can work on these so-called beliefs, and see if they're really true or not, and see what's holding you to them. If you didn't have that thought, who would you be? And I know those of you who have attended other programs, but one way you can counter this is to just begin with affirmations, which are positive statements to counteract the other ones. You always use the I. You use what you want instead of what you don't want, and you keep it in the present tense. And then put those affirmations everywhere. Put them by your bedside, put them in the car, like on the visor, put them in your purse. These are ways that you can start to reprogram your brain. And it's not just reading the affirmations. You need to feel it with feelings and emotions as if it's already true. So just think of how often you may have been telling yourself the things on the left, and then start to tell yourself the things on the right. And when we're feeling shame, behind that is a feeling like I'm defective. That's why I'm unworthy. There's something wrong with me. When there's nothing wrong, even if you make mistakes. You can see that on the right, those are the power affirmations. You're using I, keeping it in the present tense, and focusing on what you want instead of what you don't want. Anybody have any questions about this? I'm just really introducing you to ideas at this point. I know it's not enough time to really get into things. I'm just trying to give you some ideas and alternative ways of thinking. So one of the things that stops us also is that it's hard to leave our comfort zone. It is, you know, even if it's something that we have not liked and we're saying, oh, I don't like feeling this way. It's become comfortable. It's what we're used to. And human beings are homeostasis. We like things to stay the same. The only reason that we change generally is we go towards pleasure or we go away from pain. And usually it's the pain that motivates us more than going towards pleasure. So it's when we recognize that staying in the comfort zone where we think we have ease and flow and security and safety, when it really isn't doing that for us anymore. To recognize that it probably never did, it was just familiar. And that you want to move out of it, reframe your beliefs that you have allowed up until now to hold me back and achieve my dreams in all areas of my life. So the part of this is that's important is that to recognize I've allowed it up to now. So it doesn't matter if your mother said this or that to you, or if your spouse keeps saying something to reinforce it. It does not matter. You have to be your own cheerleader. Negativity comes from the outside. Positivity comes from the inside. Negativity is easier to believe because that is how our brains have been programmed. So what do I mean by that? Well, the only thing that we have going for us as a species and how we survived is our brain. You know, we don't have hides. Our skin's not that tough. We don't run that fast. We don't have sharp teeth or claws. What has allowed us to survive is our brain. And so literally when we were first becoming Homo sapiens, and we had to be aware of the danger in the world. That was how we had to survive. We had to look at something and go, oh, I see this tree moving. It could be a lion out there. And we had to recognize it. What's happened, though, doesn't always mean that there was a lion. We had to learn, which is possible, what's a real fear and what is not. So I'm sure you've all had that experience where you thought something was dangerous and then you found out it wasn't. Like maybe you're walking down the street and you hear somebody behind you and you start to get worried about it. Or somebody cuts you off in traffic and for a moment you thought you were going to be hit and then you weren't. But your body reacts as if it's, you know, if it's true. So just being aware can help, and then just really wanting to get away from the pain of continuing to be the way that you've been can move you towards getting out of that comfort zone into the courage zone. And I think it's also because we like to know what's going to happen. And you know what? And life is unpredictable. So we want to keep predicting it to be the way that it was in the past. It will continue to be that way. It's not until we decide, I want something different, that we can have the courage to attempt something different. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So courage, like the little cowardly lion. Courage is facing danger when you're afraid and doing it anyway. That's what really, courage doesn't mean that you're not afraid. It means being afraid and doing it anyway. It means really speaking your mind by telling your heart so that you can be the powerful woman that you really know you are. And I always love this little, I'm sure you've seen this before, but I really like it. I keep it in mind a lot for myself. But I think it's so true that you want to grant the serenity to accept the things that can't change, the courage to change the things that you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So another part of over people pleasing is having really undefined personal boundaries. So what are healthy boundaries? Well, it's a limit or line that you won't let anyone, you will not allow anyone to cross because of the negative impact it has on you for it being crossed. It's a set of limits over your physical and emotional well-being, which you expect others to respect in their relationship with you. Now, if you don't have these, you can't expect people to honor the boundaries. They're not going to just, oh, okay, I'll do this. It's really important that you're very clear on what those boundaries are. The emotional and physical space you need in order to be the real you without pressure from others to be something you're not. That's what healthy boundaries are. So one of the things that you can do and recognize, though, is that in the aqua circle, those are the things that you are responsible for and the consequences of them. The things that are in the outer area, you are not responsible. You're not responsible for how somebody's going to react to what you do or say. Even if they try to make you be responsible, you are not. It's up to them. We are only responsible for ourselves. And that comes from, again, it's an inside job. So the good thing about only being responsible for these things is then we have the power to change it if we want. If we decide we're responsible for those things that are in the outer areas, well, then just recognize you're, again, going to let other people control you, and you'll stay in that over people pleasing mode. So again, what do you want? If you can go, wow, he's upset because I decided to go back to school. Guess what? That's on him. You're not doing anything wrong by taking care of yourself. Although often people will want to make you feel like you're doing something wrong. So just recognize it's funny that people think people who take care of themselves are being selfish while they're asking you to take care of them. So who's being selfish here, right? Which leads me to practicing self-care. Self-care is a great balance between being selfish and self-denying. So when we're selfish, we're only focusing on meeting our own personal wishes or needs with little or no concerns about others. This is a definition of being a narcissist, by the way. And then we have a very judgmental observation and criticism of one's character or maturity. Whereas self-denying, on the other end of the scale, is focusing on meeting the needs and wishes of others, which involves personal sacrifice of our own wishes. So it's not that you're focusing on others' needs and wishes, it's that it's going too far and it's sacrificing your own. And with extreme type is self-denying or self-depriving, which means you're not taking care of yourself. You're just trying to take care of someone else, maybe so that you can get those goodies of, oh, I'm a good person because I'm doing all this. But this is what happens when we do it too much. Instead, we become depressed, guilt-ridden, resentful, and bitter. That's the price of being self-denying. So instead, and remember when I said we change if we feel pain, a lot of times people finally go, wow, I've been doing this self-denying business so much, I'm in so much pain, I've got to change. This is where you all of a sudden realize, wow, I've been over people pleasing way too much. But self-care is a nice balance between the two. So it's responding to other people's needs and wants of others, as well as ourselves. It's weighing the importance of our needs and the needs of others. So sometimes what somebody else needs can be more important than what you need, right? So here's a good example. I just came back from Oregon. It was my first vacation in 4 years. I take a lot of trips because I don't have family in Greensboro in North Carolina. I have family in Chicago and family in California. So while I take a lot of trips to those two areas, those are not practicing self-care for me. That's seeing my family is great, but it's not a vacation. I'm sure you get the difference. So I went to Oregon and spent a week with 4 other friends that we've known each other since kindergarten. So it's lots of fun. We had a great time.
Great.
Tell you, they were originally supposed to come to North Carolina. We rotate. There's three live on the West Coast and 2 of us live on the East Coast, and we rotate. It's supposed to be every 2 years, but COVID kind of put a kibosh on that. It was my turn, but one of our friends is actually having surgery Wednesday. It was going to be in October, and so we had to move the trip up to September. My friend who lives in Oregon owns a little farm. She calls it a farmette. She's got 2 goats, 2 pigs, lots of chickens, 2 dogs, 3 cats. And it's fire season in Oregon until October. And she said, I cannot leave my farm because it's fire season and I can't leave my farm in someone else's care in case the animals have to be evaluated. I mean, not evaluated. Taken.
Evacuated.
Evacuated. Thank you. I don't know.
That's it.
Evacuated. Maybe I could blame it on my cold and the cold medicine. What do you think? Evacuated. All right. So I did not really want to go now because I had just been on a trip to see my family, and it was actually really close for me to go away again because, you know, I have a business and it was just too close. I really didn't want to. But what was more important? Well, my friend needed her operation in October, and my other friend needed to be with her animals because of the threat of fire season.
Yeah.
So that outweighed in my mind. I don't think I was being self-denying, but because I did practice self-care. I just thought that was more important than my reason of just not wanting to, because I just traveled and I spent a lot of money, but it wasn't as critical. You get the idea? So I didn't feel like I was being self-denying. I evaluated what was important and what was more important.
Spending time with your friends probably benefited you a lot.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. But you know, I could have been like, oh no, you guys have to come here. We had planned on this. We've been planning on it for 2 years that it was going to be here. Actually for 4 years because it was supposed to be. And no, you know, you weigh it. That's what I mean. You weigh what's important. And so you decide which needs or wishes take priority in every situation. I wasn't going to miss the trip, by the way, Cindy. That's for sure. So, yeah. So, you know, it's accepting and respecting our own needs and that of others, and acknowledging our need to receive from others. And it also means that we allow ourselves to receive graciously without shame. So that's, so when we practice self-care, we're better able to ascertain whether we need to please somebody else ahead of ourselves or not. So one of the things too that I'd like you to think about is that we all have needs, and how much are your own needs getting met? So social needs, how much are you enjoying friendships, being with other people, not in a romantic relationship, but just, you know, caring about others and being with them? How much do you want to be with them, and how much are you being? And then you need to figure out, well, okay, now I need to make a promise to myself that I'm going to do this more. Whether it's going out to dinner or whether it's having somebody over, just talking on the phone. Especially women, we have a strong social need. Emotional need. How much do we need to feel loved? And how much do we surround ourselves, whether it's a romantic relationship or other people, with people that we love and that help us feel loved? Again, how much have you been doing it? How much do you want to be doing it? Intellectual. As human beings, we all have intellectual needs. So how much time are you spending on learning something new? Are you reading books that inspire you and that expand your thinking? That you're just being creative and solving a problem? So all of us have intellectual needs. And by the way, that's a really good, all of these things that I'm saying, by the way, are the ways that doctors say to prevent Alzheimer's and other kinds of dementia, by the way. These are important needs that if we don't do these things, we may be headed for trouble in the future. Physical. So how much are you exercising? And I don't mean, it doesn't have to be a lot. Walking is great, just walk. How much are you walking? Take care of yourself that way. Creative. Again, as human beings, we have a creative need. How many times are you doing something that's creative? It could be trying a new recipe, could be creative. It could be painting or, just creating a poem. How much time are you devoting to that, and how much time do you want to devote to that? And I mean literally put these things in your schedule. That is practicing good self-care. And the last one is spiritual. How are your spiritual needs being met? That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be part of an organized religion unless that works for you. But how much do you want to connect with something that feels like it's a higher power than yourself? And what are you doing about that? It could just be praying in your own house or meditating. So again, how much are you doing it? What do you want to do? And how do you want to increase it? And put it in your schedule. So here's the positive attributes of healthy and balanced people pleasers, because people pleasers are wonderful folk. It's just, it goes overboard. So loving, generous, considerate. I really like this definition, the embodiment of the good parent that everyone wishes they had, which means that we know how to be loving and caring, and also when to let go. See others as they are and have a lot of compassion and willing to lend a hand, but also know when are we enabling and when are we helpful? There's a balance there. And sometimes, especially parents, we can get into enabling and not realizing it. And that actually does our children or whoever else you're enabling a disservice. It's really what we teach people to do for themselves that's important. So here's just in sum, be your own best friend. When you hear yourself being judgmental, would you talk to your own best friend that way? Talk to yourself the way you would talk to a loving friend. Practice empathy for yourself. So give yourself some grace and empathy. If you made a mistake, okay, that's the way it goes. How can you empathize more with yourself? One little technique you can do is get a picture of yourself as a young child. I have one by my bedside. Some people have trouble with this if they didn't have a good childhood. So you might want to use a picture of a beloved pet instead. But when you use this picture, what feelings come up when you look at a baby? We feel a lot of, we don't judge them. They're just learning. Do we say you're an idiot for falling down when they're like 10 months old? No, they're learning. So give that, practice that kind of empathy for yourself. And sometimes having, if this works for you, a picture of yourself as a child can be helpful, because it can remind you of how would you feel towards that child, because that child still exists within you. Developing an invisible shield. And what I mean by that is, it can also be called a psychic shield. When you're around people that are throwing barbs at you and are negative, imagine that you have an invisible shield that's impenetrable, and you just put it up and you let what they say bounce right off of you. Because do you want to spend your emotional energy all the time on what they're saying or doing?
Mhm. Wow.
Be active and take charge. So it's really up to you, going back to the serenity prayer. Be active, take charge of your life. This is your life. So remember, you're the advocate for your own well-being. Clean out what's unhealthy so you can live your life in peace and harmony. Ask yourself whether it's a piece of clothing, something on the wall, a relationship. Is this healthy for me? And if not, see what you can get it out of your life. I mean, some relationships might be unhealthy, but you choose to stay in them. Now, if you're unhappy about your mom, but you would feel worse if you have a relationship with her, then you need to figure out what you can do to make it a healthier relationship. So you owe yourself, I want you to really hear this, the love that you so freely give to other people. People pleasers give. And we need to give ourselves the love that we so freely give to other people. Because once we do, we can then love ourselves and the rest will follow. Because there's no better love in this world than the love you have for yourself. And you may have seen this quote before one of my presentations. I really like it though. She's always saying she was sorry when she hadn't done anything wrong. So she decided it was time to stick up for herself. And that's the whole thing about people pleasing. When do you stick up for yourself, and how do you do it in a healthy way? This is only the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more involved in this. I know. I just wanted to give you kind of an overview. I mean, in fact, there's so much more involved that I am in the process of creating between a 4 and 8 week program on it. Read my story, comes from my book, because if you read chapter 3, you'll hear about me being a people pleaser and when I finally had enough of doing it. You can get it from Amazon if you desire, or I can send you one. And here's the contact information. I know I threw a lot of stuff at you. I hope you found it useful. I could have gone into much more in depth than any one of those things. I just wanted to give you an overview.